Have you ever wondered if the way you talk at the Dr. A.S. office could quietly shape the care you receive? Many older adults experience this without realizing that even small conversational habits, your tone, your choice of words, the way you share details, can open doors or close them. You probably won to survive this game if you keep treating medical visits like polite tea parties where you downplay, nod, and hurry along. Doctors can only work with what you give them, and if the information is blurry or incomplete, even the best professional is left guessing. This isn't about blaming yourself. Most seniors pick up these patterns after a lifetime of being tough or not wanting to complain. But when it comes to your health, those quiet habits have very real consequences. Imagine holding a jigsaw puzzle with half the pieces missing. That's what your doctor faces if you leave out key details. And when puzzles are incomplete, treatment can be delayed, misdirected, or simply not as effective as it could be. Psychologists often say communication is half content and half delivery. In medicine, it's even more. Studies show that older patients who speak clearly and assertively are more likely to get timely diagnoses and treatments compared to those who hesitate. Yet many seniors still worry about being a burden. That word alone has stopped countless people from speaking up about symptoms that later turned out to be serious. I remember listening to a physician in Toronto who admitted, "Sometimes I sense a patient is holding back, and I wish they'd just say it, because the hesitation makes me worry about what I'm not hearing, and that's the heart of it. Silence creates shadows, and in those shadows, small problems can grow." Experts still argue whether age itself makes doctors more likely to underestimate symptoms, but nearly all agree. The patient's own words either sharpen or blur the picture. Your appointment is not a performance, it's a partnership. By being honest and precise, you hand your doctor the clearest map possible. So, before you step into that room, remember this. Your words are not complaints, they are lifelines. And the way you speak them could be the difference between catching something early or watching it slip into something more dangerous. One of the most common mistakes I've seen older adults make during a Dr. S visit is brushing off or downplaying their symptoms. It might sound like saying, "It's nothing serious, just a little ache," or "I don't want to make a fuss about it." You may think you're being polite or saving time, but what you're really doing is making it harder for your doctor to help you. Doctors rely on what you describe to piece together what's happening. If you soften the details, you're giving them a puzzle with missing pieces. Many seniors fall into this habit from a lifetime of toughness, years of putting others first or believing complaining shows weakness. But what you think is just age could be an early warning sign. Take Helen, a 78-year-old neighbor. For weeks, she had a constant tightness in her chest but brushed it off as just getting older. During a routine checkup, she casually mentioned it. Only then did her doctor recognize the red flag. Tests revealed a heart condition that needed immediate treatment. She told me later, with tears in her eyes, "If I hadn't said it that day, I might not be here." And Helen's story isn't rare. In Japan, researchers tracked seniors who minimized stomach pain for months, assuming it was indigestion. Some later discovered treatable cancers had been silently growing. In Germany, a study found that men over 70 were less likely than women to report early urinary problems, even when it hinted at prostate issues. Why? They didn't want to cause worry. Experts still argue whether cultural attitudes toward aging are the biggest reason people underreport symptoms, or if it's more about personality and upbringing. But one thing is certain: hiding discomfort is dangerous. The best approach: say it exactly as it is. If you've had pain for 3 weeks, say 3 weeks. If you wake up every night at 2 a.m. short of breath, say exactly that. If you feel weak after meals, don't soften it with, "It's probably nothing." You're not complaining. You're giving your doctor the tools to protect your future. Here's a quirky but true story. In Canada, an elderly man walked into a clinic complaining that his shoes felt a little tighter. That tiny comment led to a diagnosis of swelling caused by early heart failure. Something as small as noticing your shoes suddenly fitting differently saved his life. So next time you feel tempted to smile and say, "Oh, it's just old age," remember Helen. Remember the Canadian with the tight shoes. Your doctor isn't judging you. They're searching for clues. And the sooner you give them the full picture, the sooner you get back to the life you want to live. Another habit that often causes trouble during medical visits is speaking in vague, unclear terms instead of giving specific details. You know the kind. "I just feel off," or "it hurts." While those phrases might make sense to you, they leave your doctor guessing, and guessing in medicine is dangerous. Doctors need precision. They need to know when it started, how it feels, how long it lasts, what makes it better, what makes it worse. Without these details, it's like trying to repair a car when the driver only says, "It makes a weird sound sometimes." Which sound? Where? When? Without clarity, the problem hides in the shadows. I think back to Robert, an 81-year-old friend. He told his doctor he was feeling weak lately. That's all. The doctor asked questions, but Robert couldn't recall specifics. Was it mornings or evenings? After meals or after walks? The lack of detail delayed the process. Weeks later, tests finally showed anemia, which could have been treated sooner. This happens everywhere. A German study found that nearly half of older patients describe symptoms in vague terms like tired, strange, or something's not right. These words aren't wrong, but they're incomplete. And incomplete information slows care. Experts still argue whether memory decline is the main reason older adults forget details or if it's just habit, because in everyday conversation, vague language is enough. Friends and family can fill in the blanks. But a doctor isn't a mind reader. Here's one quirky story. In the UK, a man complained of feeling a bit funny in the afternoons. That phrase could have meant anything. Luckily, the GP pressed further. After a detailed log, they discovered his blood sugar was dropping dangerously low every day at 3 p.m. That vague, funny feeling was actually undiagnosed diabetes. So, what can you do? Prepare before the appointment. Write down your symptoms, when they happen, and how they feel. If it's pain, is it sharp, dull, burning, or throbbing? If it's fatigue, does it come after meals, in the morning, or only after exertion? Even jotting notes on a scrap of paper or your phone makes a world of difference. When you walk in with specifics, you are not being dramatic. You'd be giving your doctor a clear map instead of a blurry sketch. And when your health is on the line, that clarity can literally save your life. One of the biggest missed opportunities I've seen in older adults' medical visits is showing up without a written list of concerns. You might think, I'll remember everything once I'm there. But the truth is, once you're in that room, time moves fast. The doctor asks one or two questions. The conversation drifts. And before you know it, you're driving home realizing you forgot the 3 things that bothered you most. This isn't about being forgetful. It happens to everyone. Appointments feel rushed, nerves get in the way, or one problem dominates the entire conversation. Without a list, your health is left partly to chance. Doctors aren't mind readers, and if something doesn't come up, it often doesn't get addressed. I remember Margaret, who went to her doctor for blood pressure medication. She also wanted to discuss her dizziness and poor sleep, but by the end of the visit, only the medication was covered. Weeks later, the dizziness worsened, and it turned out to be linked to her blood pressure treatment, something the doctor could have caught earlier if all concerns were on the table. Stories like this are common. In Canada, a geriatric specialist once said that the most dangerous phrase they hear from seniors after a visit is, "Oh, I forgot to mention." Those forgotten details can mean missed diagnoses or delayed treatment. Experts still argue whether memory decline with age is the key issue, or whether it's simply the pressure of trying to recall everything on the spot. Either way, the solution is simple. Write it down. Here's a quirky, real-life example. In the U.S., one 82-year-old man carried a laminated index card to every appointment with a neatly typed list of his questions. His doctor joked it was like seeing a lawyer present evidence, but he never left the room without answers, and his care was consistently more effective because of it. Think of it like grocery shopping. Walk in without a list, and you'll almost always leave without something important. But with a list, you make sure every concern, big or small, gets attention. It doesn't matter if you write it on a napkin, in a notebook, or on your phone. What matters is that when you sit down with your doctor, you've got your priorities right in front of you. Your health is too important to rely on memory alone. So next time, bring the list. Hand it to your doctor if you need to. That one habit can turn a rushed, scattered appointment into a focused, productive conversation that protects your future. Another subtle but dangerous mistake many older patients make is assuming the doctor remembers every detail of their history. Even if you've been seeing the same physician for 10 or 15 years, they treat dozens of patients each day. They may recall the broad strokes of your health, but not the fine details, not every change, not every medication switch. Walter, a friend of mine in his late 70s, learned this the hard way. He went to his doctor complaining about joint pain. He assumed his physician remembered his history with gout, so he didn't mention that he had also started a new blood pressure pill a month earlier. That detail turned out to be critical. The new medication was contributing to his pain. Instead of solving it quickly, weeks of unnecessary tests followed. This isn't about blaming doctors. They rely on charts and notes, but medical records don't always capture everything. And no doctor has time to review every page of your file before you walk in. If you skip updates because you think they already know, you risk leaving out the very clue that could lead to the right answer. Experts still argue whether electronic health records have truly improved continuity of care or just created more noise in the system. Either way, your voice is still the strongest update tool you have. Here's a quirky example. In the UK, a woman always brought a short "since last visit" summary on a sticky note. It listed new medications, changes in sleep, appetite, or mood, plus any new aches. Her doctor once told her, "You save me 10 minutes every time you walk in." 10 minutes may not sound like much, but in a 15-minute appointment, that's the difference between thorough care and rushed care. So make it a habit. At the start of each visit, give a quick, clear update. Mention new prescriptions, supplements, or lifestyle changes. If you've had new symptoms, even if they seem unrelated, say them out loud. Think of it like catching up with a friend. You wouldn't need to expect them to know what happened in your life since last time if you never told them. Your doctor is your partner, not a psychic. The more you share, the better they can connect the dots and keep you healthy. Skipping details because you assume they already know is like handing them half the puzzle and expecting a perfect picture. When you finally get into that exam room, it can feel like your one golden chance to spill everything that's been on your mind for weeks or even months. So you start at the very beginning and walk the doctor through every detail, from your cousin's hip replacement to the weird weather last month, to that one time your knee clicked while you were gardening. It comes from a good place. You want to be thorough. You don't want to leave anything out. But here's the catch. Those appointments are short. Doctors are trained to guide the conversation in a specific way, because they know which details matter most right now. If you fill the time with side stories, you risk drowning out the real issue. Mary, a 77-year-old neighbor of mine, went in to talk about knee pain that made it hard to walk. By the time she finished explaining her cousin's surgery, her gardening routine, and the aches in her shoulders, half the appointment was gone. The doctor barely had time to examine her knee, and she left with more questions than answers. Not because the doctor didn't care, but because there simply wasn't enough time left. Experts still argue whether the growing time pressure on physicians is the main problem, or whether patients need more guidance on how to edit their stories. Either way, the outcome is the same. When the clock runs out, important details can get lost. Here's a quirky true story. In Germany, a man in his 80s came to his doctor with back pain. He began by describing his Army service from decades earlier, then explained his posture habits, then drifted into a story about his favorite chair. The doctor later said it was like navigating a novel without chapters. Eventually, they discovered his pain was from a simple slipped disc, a diagnosis that could have been made in minutes if he had led with the basics. That doesn't mean you should hold back important information. It means you should let the doctor lead. Start with the main point. Sharp pain in my right knee when I stand up, then allow the doctor to ask for details. Think of it like a dance. You provide the rhythm, the doctor chooses the steps. Here is a practical tip. Bring a short written list of your top 2 or 3 concerns. Hand it over at the beginning. That way, even if conversation drifts, your priorities stay visible. Another trick? Keep your first sentence short and clear, then wait. The doctor will ask what they need to know. It's not about talking less. It's about talking in a way that works with your doctor's process, not against it. That way, you leave with solutions, not just stories. The way you speak at the Dr. EMS office shapes the care you receive far more than most people realize. Your words can open doors to understanding, or they can create confusion that slows everything down. In older age, the stakes feel higher. Every symptom, every new ache, every checkup matters more. That's why learning to speak with clarity, focus, and honesty is one of the most valuable habits you can build. Think of your words as the bridge between your body and your doctor's expertise. If that bridge is clear and sturdy, the path forward is smoother. But if it's cluttered with vagueness, over-talking, or missing pieces, the journey becomes slower and riskier. I've seen both sides. Some seniors dread appointments because they feel unheard or misunderstood. Others walk out with a deep sense of trust because they approach the conversation differently, prepared, honest, and willing to let the doctor guide. The difference isn't in intelligence or health, it's in how they use their voice. Experts still argue whether our healthcare system puts too much pressure on patients to manage communication. But here's what no one disputes. When you prepare your thoughts, when you speak with detail but not excess, and when you update your doctor openly, you take control of your health in a way that's powerful and practical. A quirky but inspiring example comes from a Canadian woman in her late 70s. Before each appointment, she recorded short voice memos on her phone describing her symptoms as they happened. At the clinic, she played them back for her doctor. He once told her, "This is like carrying a black box for your health." It gave him clarity, and it gave her confidence that nothing important would be forgotten. So, as you look ahead, remember, you're not just a patient. You're a partner. Your doctor brings training and tools, but you bring the story. The facts only you know. Together, you create the path forward. And when you leave an appointment feeling heard, respected, and cared for, it's more than just medicine. It's peace of mind.